Hey guys, and welcome to another video. This is not a prep, episode number 10. Wow, 10 weeks. I am Mr. Consistent. I have a little mic on too to see if that helps with the sound quality, so it sounds less like I'm recording off an iPhone and recording on a mic. Yeah, I think he might be having a poo. So yeah, right. So this is entitled The Mindset of Maintenance, and the idea behind this video is I talked a little bit about maintenance and why it's important in episode 9, but what I'm trying to get across to people, clients and people that maybe are just generally dieting, is get this kind of mindset of maintenance, because it's going to be important to the long term, whether you are finished fat loss or not. When you finished fat loss, forever is maintenance. When between the starting point and the finishing point, that may take a significant amount of time. As I've talked about, because I pre-recorded that prior to this video, in my update sheet, which you can go to here straight to and cut out all of this, I talk about the fact that this entire process might be 8 months long. However, I'm not going to be in a caloric deficit for that entire 8 months. Even 7 days out, 2 days out of 7, I am eating at maintenance when I'm in with that total deficit. So a week or two isn't going to hurt progress. What generally hurts progress is when people are unable to adhere to their rigid dietary protocol that they've set in their exercise program, and therefore decide to go fuck it and then ultimately binge, and they end up in this kind of binge restrict cycle. We need to stop that, and what maintenance periods do is not just physiologically give your body a break and communicate with them hormones that regulate appetite, such as leptin and ghrelin, but from a psychological perspective, you feel like maybe there's not that weight on your shoulders. It can be hard because obviously maintenance is a period of time where the aim is not to lose body fat, and I understand people want to lose body fat. However, you could be spending weeks just kind of stuttering and going between deficit and surplus and just getting nowhere, where if you purposely give yourself permission to go, right, I need to maybe establish a stronger foundation before I go back into this deficit, and that ultimately in the long term is going to be more productive than what maybe you're currently doing. So for me, going into maintenance is just because I've got that time on my hands, and also I just felt like I was getting hungrier than I wanted to be. I now feel great. NEAT is up, energy is great, but also from a health perspective, food variety is up. I'm incorporating, here and there, just different foods. Whereas when when you're in a caloric deficit, sometimes you're so structured that you end up eating the same foods over and over. As well, the flexibility it gives you outside of the diet, so tracking less rigidly, eating meals that you do not track, going out for food, things like that. So maintenance isn't just going to help you from a psychological perspective and a physiological perspective, it's going to help you from a social perspective, and we're looking at the big picture of health here, not just kind of let's lose fat, but we've got to understand how fat loss has to be interwoven into our lifestyle, not just kind of it being our entire life. Also, people take a lot of kind of valuation from what people think and their ability to sustain, and they take that very personally and measure their self-worth off their ability to adhere or not, and they're just like, oh, why me? It's my problem. Everybody else has got it easy. Why am I struggling with this? And the reality is you're just being a little bit harsh on yourself. Maybe there's a bit of perfectionism out there. Maybe you're successful in other areas of your life and this is a stumbling block for you. Chill out. Take a big picture approach and you will be successful over the long term. Anyway, I hope that helps. Adopt a different outlook towards your nutrition. This is why I feel I'm very successful, and I will, if I do compete, will be the only non-bodybuilder backstage doing a bodybuilding show. I don't identify as a bodybuilder. That's the difference. And I don't hang my hat on the fact of being a successful bodybuilder or not. Anyway, I'm going to go play with my son because he sounds like he's having a ball. I will speak to you next time. Enjoy the video. Goodbye. Hey guys, so I thought I would just, give you the update as normal. I don't know why I started that way. Anyway, this week was maintenance. Well, last week was maintenance. And this week I'm decided is going to be another maintenance week. And as I've discussed in the main video there, adopting this kind of mindset of maintenance as opposed to not necessarily the physiological aspects of maintenance, but the less stress-inducing aspect of maintenance. Obviously, people chase fat loss quite a lot, which can be stressful, and maintenance periods are to downregulate that potential diet fatigue that is accumulating through people just constantly, chasing fat loss, and before it gets complacent and they are unadherent, well, let's adhere to something we can adhere to, which will be a block of maintenance. So this is my week. Funnily enough, I was 0.1 above my lowest weigh-in. And usually during maintenance, I will expect weight to go up because I'm holding more glycogen. But sometimes, as I mentioned last week, weight comes down because you get rid of all that fluid retention that potentially is built up through stress and other things. And when you increase calories in, also calories out go up. So NEAT generally goes up and performance in the gym may go up. This week we're at the Crab Manor, crab and lobster. We'll love it there. So I just threw in this additional 3,000 calories on top of what I already consumed, and taking that day roughly to around 4,500 calories. Might have been more if I'm honest, but whatever, it is what it is. It's not an emotional sort of thing, this, to me. You can't eat perfectly, so what's the point? Well, get rid of that idea of perfectionism and understand is you can still enjoy yourself. And for the most part, people want to make this a lifestyle, so going out for food, enjoying food for what it is absolutely kind of critical to the long-term sustainability of your plan. So I had drinks and a meal, got a little bit drunk, bought a coffee maker, then breakfast the next day. Wasn't totally crazy, the breakfast, plus we were both really full off the night before, so I just dotted down 1,000 calories for that. So all in all, roughly probably came in at around 3.1 to 3.3 or 3.5 on average per day. But my steps wise, physical activity, my body clock's waking us up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. So I got up dead early after Crab Manor. She's still asleep, so I'm like, hey, I'm just going for an hour's wander. Put my headphones in. I drove, so all my stuff's in the back of my car, my walking boots, my big coat, and all of that. So just took myself out for a walk, listening to a podcast, instead of just lying in bed twiddling my thumbs. I think that's the expression, twiddling my thumbs. Yeah, so steps-wise are really up. I'm up early, I'm physically active, and for the most part, it's very habit-driven and behavior-driven. It's not like I'm going out my way or I'm trying to compensate in any way. This is something people are very guilty of and they shouldn't do, is if they feel they've had a bad meal, they compensate in other ways by like massively reducing caloric intake and massively increasing caloric expenditure through exercise. It's very an emotional reaction. What I'm trying to do is make sure people are mindful. This is why, like, if I have a Domino's or a takeaway or whatever, my energy expenditure and my caloric budget in general is generally quite high. So it's when I return back to normal, my normal may look very different to your normal. So this is quite normal, as you've seen in the previous weeks for me. But yeah, that is pretty much my update. But other things that I'm seeing beyond just the scale, like vascularity's coming through, forearms, even on my legs quite a lot. So I'm a way ahead of the game. And if this not a prep eventually does become a prep, I've got till August. So these maintenance periods are going to probably occur more frequently or quite intermittently. And this entire dieting process might be 8 months long, 9 months long. However, I am not in a caloric deficit for 8, 9 months. You know, even if you look from a weekly basis, 2 days out of 7, I am not in a caloric deficit. So you can eliminate them straight away from the big picture, and then you've got the weeks here and there, 2 weeks in this case. Yeah, so reality, and this is a term I've kind of thought up myself. It's called a defeed. So you have refeeds when dieting. I I need a defeed. I feel full, which is great. Like that's what I want from a maintenance period. I'm like, oh right, okay. So psychologically, I'm ready to kind of go back into that deficit. I'm going to have another week at maintenance because I am enjoying the food and the food variety that I've got available to me. I'm enjoying eating more food, and it's crazy a perspective shift because this was this was made like normal for me to eat when I was at maintenance previous. I was eating probably more like 3,500 calories, whereas now eating 3,100 calories is like, wow, this is so much food. So it's funny how your perspective shifts when in a caloric deficit going back to maintenance. You feel like you've got so much food, which in reality you do. So yeah, don't overlook maintenance periods. Don't see it as a kind of, you know, slowing the process down. It's actually helping the process. And you've got to remember and ask yourself, what is my long-term goal? Is there a time frame on this? For 9 times out of 10 people, there isn't. If people have a bodybuilding show and they have to be ready for a specific date, fair enough. But that's taking your body to an extreme level. Where you going back to after that extreme level? What's the diet after the diet look like? And mine will be one where I don't track, full stop. But my lifestyle, the foods that I consume, all of these sorts of things are what they are, And yeah, I will monitor my weight trends, and if it starts creeping up and gaining weight at that time, it means I'm in a surplus. I can't argue that fact. And if it's going down, it means I'm in a deficit, and I'll just regulate it that way when I'm not in a caloric deficit. And as I mentioned in the past, this is obviously for future Ian to look back over, but it's also for you to have like a little bit of an insight of how I diet or how I sustain my deficit. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful. Any questions, feel free to fire me a DM and then we'll go from there. Cheers.